I think there's a lot of people out there that are just paralyzed by fear, man. What if this doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out? You haven't necessarily lost, because through any process of trying, you're learning. So if you try and you fail, you've learned something. You've learned what not to do. And that for me is a positive. That's why I have like a super high risk like appetite, you know. I'll try stuff, and even people in my, you know, current business I work for, they're like, Rash, are you sure? I'm like, no, I'm not sure, but we got to try, you know. We got to try, we got to step out, man. Like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We move on to the next thing. But if we don't try, we don't move.
From Cnr Juta De Beer, imina umsindisi wesizwe, umvelisi ngomelisi wesizwe, formerly known as Wazi Madonsela, bringing you a show about creative entrepreneurs live from the landmark that not only birth SA street culture, but also formalize the street hustle. Cnr Juta De Beer, umsindisi wesizwe, umvelisi special edition. Very, very special edition. We're out in the Cape. This is my first time recording one in Cape Town. I'm sitting with the one, the only, Rash Ferguson, musician, marketer, designer, forecaster, cultural custodian, and all-round creative.
Wow.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good.
I think
excited for this, yeah.
This is the first time I was on a flight thinking about a podcast. I was like, okay, cool. How do we tackle this? And I think the first question that I have is, what's your mental diet like as someone who's self-taught? Everyone's always talking about like, hey, I'm a self-taught artist. I didn't go to school for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've learned it on the way. But what's the regimen that keeps your mind going? Because a lot of us want to go into fields we don't have a background in.
So I would say being a student for life. So what I mean by that is that I'm constantly learning. Like, and I'm talking about every single day. So in terms of the regimen, I get home, obviously, you know, work can be crazy. And first thing I generally do is just, you know, put my stuff down in the evening and then just try and get like dinner in. 9 times out of 10 while I'm eating dinner, I'm watching a tutorial about something, about how to do X, the process of Y. And so I do feel that keeps my brain like super sharp. And because it's not always related to your kind of, I guess, your core 9 to 5 or your core job, it's like process on, I don't know, how to construct a couch, or like, you know, like sometimes random stuff, or like investing, or like finance stuff, and like all these different things, because it just allows your brain not to get lazy. And so when you step into your normal sort of things that you need to learn, it doesn't feel unfamiliar to have to squeeze more information in.
You come into this interview with over 20 years of industry experience. You ran your own agency, you've worked in agencies, you've pitched your ideas, and now you're at big corporate. Like, what does it mean to be a marketing manager? Because we always see these posts on LinkedIn looking for this, but what is the running of that?
So, man, it's an interesting one. And I think it's gonna, at the end of the day, depend on who's hiring you. Some people out there are gonna look for your stock standard marketing manager, just came out of college, they got the right stuff on paper, and as long as, you know, they can prove that, hey, I'm fit for the job because I was studying X, Y, and Z, and they end up getting the job. I think with me, it was more through relationships and more through understanding the value that I had to bring to the business, which was really unconventional. I don't come from, I guess, the appropriate background of experience in terms of my job today. But I think because of all the things that I had accomplished through the years, it sort of made me the right choice for the job, yeah.
You get into a job, you change a couple of things, but you've had your own businesses. Yeah. You've had your own clothing brands before you got into the retail business. What is like building a brand? How do I build a brand to get on the shelves? How do I build a brand for people to say this brand stands for something? Because you're a cultural historian, like even getting into your space, seeing all the books, the records, everything around it is always information and knowledge. Yeah. How do you get to a mentality and space?
So building the brand, I would say sort of, I guess, very similar to the first question, right? I don't think it's going to be like cut and paste or cut and dry as like, you know, 1 + 1 = 2 type of thing. But I will say what is, I guess, the common thread between anyone who's built a significant brand versus not is that successful brands, I feel, are based on authenticity. Generally speaking, of like the founder or the creator of the brand. People who are brave enough to tap into their own niche or their own passions and stick with it have a much more sustainable approach to brand than people who are imitating, right? And so what I mean by that is like it's an energy conversation really. So if you're a young guy, you're like, oh, I want to build a clothing brand, and you start, hitting up Pinterest or hitting up High Snob or Complex and just kind of copying whatever you see. Sometimes that's part of the process early on, but let's say that particular brand that you've used as a reference is now tapping into like a global trend. Now you're tapping into that trend, right? So you stand for that particular moment in time. And then in a month or two, this same brand that you're referencing is tapping into something else. You're like, oh, now you got to change tact, right? That's going to take energy, it's going to take money, it's going to take effort, and it's going to take you chasing all the time. Whereas if you're like, cool, the brand I want to build is about something that I believe in, something that resonates with me as a person. And even though I may not get all the eyes and, cash available to support that brand, I can do that forever because that's who I am. And that's a much more sustainable way of doing. And the people that kind of get onto your brand through that mechanic are going to be loyal forever, because what you are putting out is actually more true to you. It's not necessarily based on an imitation of something else.
You mentioned Pinterest. There's a guy on TikTok right now. He's exploring the ideation that most of the designs we see on the local brands, he'll literally like do the Google ID of the image and just direct trace on Pinterest. What do you think is slowing down the cultivation of the local fashion brand in terms of quote unquote streetwear? Because there was the OSCS era where everyone was like, yo, I want to start my own brand. Even me at some stage, I wanted my own brand. Because it was this thing of seeing the Sols of the world, seeing the various brands that we've seen.
So your question is what is slowing down the what would you say? What is slowing down the innovation?
The innovation and the brands actually growing. Because most of them have been at this point where it's like, I've supported you long enough, but you're not growing fast enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I get it. So for me, there's two things, right? And I think going back to the sort of previous question around imitation versus, I guess, authenticity. Part of it, and that's why I say sometimes it's okay to do that in the beginning. If you go back to Virgil's 3% rule, it's like you only you don't have to reinvent the hoodie, right? But that 3% has got to be like 100% you. And so as you kind of start that journey, you can kind of develop from there. But I think because of probably AI overload of like visual references and Pinterest and whatnot, I think designers and brand builders have become lazy, and it's sort of more about like chasing the bag than offering something of value back to the community that you care about. And then that's one piece of it, and I'm generalizing now, so it's not everybody that has done that, but definitely some. The other piece is like, man, learn how to run a business. Like that's as like blunt as it gets. And if I relate it back to even like my musical days, playing in bands and whatnot, we definitely were not the best band around. In fact, some of my friends were like 1,000 times better than us, but we were more successful because we took care of the business aspect of the brand. We took care of the branding, the marketing, the merch, tour bookings. Everything was like sorted out, structured, in place. And so we ended up getting bookings for like big festivals and all of this stuff. And I always thought to myself, man, like these guys are like so much more dope than us. It's like, what's happening? And they just couldn't be bothered. I mean, they stuck to what they love, which was making music, making songs, but they just didn't sort out the business side. And then eventually they just disbanded, And I think that's the same in any creative industry, is that as creatives, our default is going to be like, I want to create. But if you want your creativity or your product to actually mean something, there's a business aspect to it. And it's not that you're changing your focus now. It's like where it's just about the bag or just about the money. It's about actually honoring your craft with what it needs to be able to grow and have a bigger impact.
You've honored your craft. You've gotten yourself hired in all these roles that you've played in, right? What does it mean to take the next step? Because when we had the conversation, I think a couple of weeks back, you said you cracked your first Adobe, and that's how you acquired the skills that you still use to this day. What was the driver? Because a lot of us, we have this thing. It's like, even if I want to start a t-shirt brand, it's like, no, I can't design. I just know it's dope. I just need my friend to do the design. I just need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What drove you mentally in that process?
Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit deep on this one.
Please.
Because it's probably not whatever you're thinking. So I think context is key, right? And we all have different upbringings. We all have a different, way that we kind of get to where we are in life. My mom and dad got divorced when I was about 2 years old. Dad had a struggle with substance and whatnot, and it was a crazy time. And my mom sort of took myself and my sister and did the whole single parent vibe. As a result of not having a dad in my life, I struggled severely with confidence, super introverted my entire life, but to the point where I just couldn't do anything. Like, I wasn't good at sport, I wasn't good at grades, I wasn't good at making friends. And so I lived this like really small, isolated life, like pretty much my whole like childhood. And yes, I had like little, friends here and there, and played a bit of video games and whatnot. So it wasn't like all doom and gloom, but in a bigger sense, it was like no impact, zero impact. And so when I got into high school, I started asking a lot of questions about just life and spirituality and everything else. I grew up in a certain belief system, because that's just you grow into it. Whatever your family believes, you kind of believe. And I started asking a lot of questions. I started like sort of being like, why aren't these prayers being answered? Why is my life feeling like this? It feels like something is like blocking me, from whatever the other part of life should be. And when I got to about 16 years old, I actually made a change in terms of what I believed. And that was a seriously big deal for me, because it meant a lot of things in terms of family connection, meant a lot of things in terms of what is or isn't allowed. And it scared the hell out of me. But when that happened, for the first time in my life, I felt a sense of acceptance. And I felt a sense of like, wow, man, I don't need to try and fit in anymore. Like, everything that I've ever wanted or needed, I have right now. And so what that did to me, and so it's a bit of a long-winded way of getting there, but what that did to me, it allowed me to step into whatever I wanted without a fear of failing. And so the very, very first thing, so funny because there's a drum kit right there, it's like a reminder. That was the first thing that I tried out, is playing the drums. And it was at a homie's house, and he was like, yeah, you want to have a go? And I was like just in awe. I hadn't seen like a actual live instrument in my life before. And then he showed me 1 or 2 things, and I sat down and I just started jamming. Like, and he was like, you like trolling me, you've played before. And I'm like, dude.
Oh, you were that good at the first play?
Yeah, like I just locked in.
Rhythm,
and I think it was like almost like an overload of like endorphins. It's like, and the thing was, it's like I'm doing something. That was like the moment. And that changed my life completely. So since that day, I was like, if I can do this, maybe I can do something else. And then I tried something, and then I tried like other instruments, and then I tried like designing, and then I tried this, and I tried that. And I wasn't good at everything. Some stuff I was like, okay, maybe not so much, But that's what started the whole creative kind of cycle for me. And since that day, to this day, as I'm sitting here now, I have zero fear of trying new things. And I think that's given me the ability to learn really quickly, and it's given me the ability to step into things that I have no business stepping into. And I think if you bring it back to, like, I guess your audience, I think there's a lot of people out there that are just paralyzed by fear, man. What if this doesn't work out? What if it doesn't work out? You haven't necessarily lost, because through any process of trying, you're learning. So if you try and you fail, you've learned something. You've learned what not to do. And that for me is a positive. That's why I have like a super high risk like appetite, you know. I'll try stuff, and even people in my, you know, current business I work for, they're like, Rash, are you sure? I'm like, no, I'm not sure, but we've got to try, you know. We've got to try, we've got to step out, man. Like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We move on to the next thing. But if we don't try, we don't move.
That's the quote. And how do you balance that and let it drive you into purpose-driven marketing?
Yeah. So that's an easy one for me. And I would sum it up in terms of the word grateful. From going back to my story about the drums, I was like, as soon as I stepped into that, I realized that this is a gift, that I didn't have to be good at this one thing, or I didn't have to succeed in this other thing. And I just felt like I can't just be given these gifts without some type of give back. And that had a lot to do with my spiritual journey, in terms of honoring God with what He has, with the skills that He's given me, you know. And I just have this, they call it like a holy discontent. It's like something that just bubbles inside of you 24/7. And I have this kind of like holy discontent in terms of like, what if there are other people out there who are living like I used to live, in this like small isolated world. They just need someone to have a conversation to kind of help them break out of that in terms of their mindset.
Yeah.
And I've seen it over the years, man. I've seen it through the stuff that we've done. And yes, you know, we sell product and we do this and that, but through everything, even through the agency, through the work I'm doing now, through work I did prior to that, you get into these conversations with people, and then you see them like years later, and they're like, dude, I just want you to know, man, that thing that you put me on, or that conversation we had changed my life. Like, I've got DMs. I had somebody message me like now, like in the last week. He's like, Rash, I never ever told you this, but that one job you put me on changed the whole trajectory of my life. And the dude's like mega successful now. And that was just like giving someone an opportunity and having a conversation. Like, I invited him to my house. We had a chat like this. And it just, if you can make something click with someone, you can change their life.
How do you then meet so many people, empower some, get empowered by others? Yeah. And then you're in this role of leadership. Have you balanced seeing the talent in someone, yeah, as opposed to the reliability? Because some people are really skilled, yeah, but they're not reliable, and you have to deal with that.
Yeah. So I think it's about identifying what type of heart they have. And what I mean by that is like, some people can mean well, and they're just not like getting it, but they're also talented at the same time. And those people are like really worth fighting for, and those people are worth kind of going on the journey in terms of like all the uncomfortable conversations and stuff like that, because you're just like, man, that's a good guy, or that's a good girl. Like, I can see that they mean well, and I can see that they're trying their best. They're just not quite there yet, but we can help. And I think that's a really important aspect of leadership, is to recognize the potential in somebody and then commit to going on the journey with them to see them flourish. And not everybody wants to do that. And that's super, super important. And then obviously you're going to get people who like just have a bad attitude and also not, you know, have an ego, or they're just not interested in being teachable or anything like that. And then, you know, life is going to do what life is going to do. But ultimately, it's like what you put out in the world is what's going to come back to you at the end of the day.
You've put out good ideas in the world. You've put out some ideas that didn't work out. How have you managed this pivot? Because I think at every turn and every job you've been in, because I was talking to someone about you, I think it was Carol, if I'm not wrong. I was talking to Carol, I was like, oh, I'm staying a day longer because I want to go sit down with Rash. And Carol's like, oh, Rash, I knew him before TFG. I was like, oh, you know Rash before. And every conversation I've had with people who've known you before, they always talk about how you've just pivoted from what they thought you do to the next time you're a different person, You keep reinventing yourself. Yeah. When did you know that, it's time to move now? Because I think when you're running your own business, there's also a certain comfort you found and a guaranteed pattern.
Yeah. So I love that question, by the way, because I think it's so fitting in terms of what I've experienced, like on this side. It messes with people's heads, bro. Like, because you wanna label someone, right? And there's no like malice or ill intent about saying, Lwazi the podcaster. It's just like people need to kind of have a box that they can put you in so that they can understand who you are. That's like your point of identity. And so for me, again, like, always referencing the beginning of my journey is that why do I have to be one thing? Like, and depending on who you talk to, when, in what season of your life, people are going to be like, oh, Rash a Q in my team, she always rips me off like, oh, Rash the rock star, because that was a big part of my life, like, back then.
What was the research? I saw the cover band stuff.
Yeah. So it's funny to me because, okay, cool, if that's the way you want to see me in that box, then, cool, more power to you. But I think it's fine as long as you don't put yourself in a box that's closed off, because then you get into that like paralyzed sort of state where you don't ever grow out of that, where you're like, no, this is who I am, blah, 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 and there's nothing more, there's nothing less, I think for some people, they're okay with that. I'm not. I think it goes from season to season. I think as you mature, as you grow, as you age, you want different things, you value different things. Things fluctuate in terms of like how much you care about them. And so I think it's important to know when your season is up, man. And it's tough, especially for like a creative, because you care a lot about things. You care about this thing that you've built, or this business, or this product, or this whatever. And unless you step away from that, you're gonna stay in that spot like for the rest of your life. And it takes bravery, it takes courage, takes risk at the end of the day, man. So it's like, what's that quote? I don't want to like paraphrase it now, but it's like doing the same thing and expecting different results is the definition of insanity. So if people are out there and they're like, I want something new or I want something different, you got to do something different. You got to, if you've been trying one way to get to where you're trying to be and it's not working, you've got to try something else. Otherwise it's just, you're going to be trying for the rest of your life.
And then when you get into these roles, how do you also adjust to them? Because you come from this background where I think you tell the story better, but how you got the TFG call.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned this to you recently in the chat, where I was saying I only ever applied for one job, and that was like 2001. That was when I was still young and had a bit of Photoshop skills, and I was like, I have to get this specific type of a job because this is all I can do, And then when I got in, when someone was like, yes, you can come in and, do whatever, photo retouching or whatever it was that I was doing back then. And I was in an environment where I was like, someone gave me an opportunity, and I just didn't take it for granted. So I just outworked everybody in that place, man. I was there first, I left last. I was surrounded by cameras. I was like, yo, can I dust these shelves? Can I clean these cameras up because they're looking a bit dusty? And then I was like, well, these cameras are here, I might as well learn how to use them. And so every aspect of that little like photo lab, like large format printing, developing of film, like all of these different things, I was just like, just soaking it all up. And then on the side, I was doing freelance design, and I was actually helping out with some brochure design and stuff for my church at that point. And then I was doing so much of it, and people were so like, you know, happy with the work I was doing. They were like, yeah, like we need you on staff. And then from just that little photo lab to like moving to the next season, it was difficult because, again, I cared about where I was. I really appreciated my boss, and he was like, and still to this day, you know, I owe a lot to that guy, because he was like, this is right for you. You're going to earn a bit more money, you're going to be exposed to more things. And he actually encouraged the move, you know. And yes, I started making a little bit more cash, but then I was surrounded by different things. I got an opportunity to then, you know, do film and do this and do that. And then that's where kind of the whole leadership thing came into play as well, because I had to lead teams and whatnot. And so I think moving from season to season, it's important to understand what the potential is of what that next season looks like. And I think that allows you to make better decisions in terms of where you go. I always had like this vision of running my own agency one day, and that was like the vision, obviously, like, you know, back then. And so I always tested the opportunity with the vision, because sometimes you'll get an opportunity that's good, but that might not be aligned to your vision. So let's say I was in the photographic lab role, and I was earning X, and someone approached me and said, "Hey, Rash, don't you want to come and run this like gas station? I'm going to pay you like 3 times as much." And then I would think about it and be like, "Cool, the money would be great, you know. But is it going to get me closer to where I want to be or further away?" And so that's been my approach from way back then to now. So every opportunity that's come my way, or every kind of, you know, job role, be like, "Oh, we want you. I'd have like 1,000 questions, man. And I'm like, is it going to increase the impact? Is there a purpose aspect to it? How do I impact people's lives, you know, positively, especially the creative community, because I've always just had a heart for that. And if it checks those boxes, I'm in. You know, of course, I've got a family as well that also plays into it. 2 boys, and so I also need to decide what's also best for them, and what's going to allow me to be a better dad, better husband. All of that stuff matters, yeah.
Do you think you get celebrated enough for the work you're doing? Because there's countless things that you guys are doing, even with the social club. Yeah. As much as people would look at it as a wider corporation decision, there's also you fighting for it to get passed. Yeah. Because as much as it looks, I don't know how to put this, but the company is front-facing it, yeah, but the person getting it above the line is you guys. Because the company sells clothes. Yeah. There's no need to create a social club. Yes. Yeah. Do you feel like you get celebrated enough for those opportunities and platforms you guys put out?
It's a tough question. Because I think for a long time I've stopped caring about that, like pats on the back. I think it's more important for me whether I feel what I'm doing has got purpose attached to it, and that's my kind of sense of achievement. If I can have a conversation with someone who's like, "Man, this really mattered," that's like my sense of achievement that I kind of long for, you know. As long as we building things, or we're getting things over the line that matters, I feel like I'm happy, you know. So I don't really mind if someone says, "Hey, you know, really well done on that," then awesome. I try to do it as much as I can for my actual team, because often, even if the idea comes from me, like the execution and the work is like it's my team, man. Like, you know, they really like can take a concept like this and stretch it to this, and it becomes even better. And that's what the whole thing about collaboration is, like, it doesn't need to be you. Like, you don't need to be the guy that gets the credit for everything. I would much rather give credit to my team for actually being on the ground and doing the work than be like, "Oh, look how great I am as whatever, you know, marketing director, blah, blah, blah." It doesn't matter to me, man.
How important is research and exploring the world You were in Paris not so long ago.
Yeah, I think it's a massive privilege to be able to travel for work. And I would say that if you were ever going to invest in anything, invest in a trip overseas. I think for multiple reasons, right? So inspiration, like just crazy. Obviously also depending on where you're going. But I think also you get a sense of appreciation for your own country and your own city as well at the same time. Where you, like overseas is always like kind of put on a pedestal and you go there and yes, like they're beautiful places in the world. But you also realize like, man, we ain't that bad, you know? Like I shared something on IG this morning. It's like Cape Town's been voted the best city in the world like seven years in a row, you know? And I believe it, man. I tell people about Cape Town. It's like, oh, you haven't been to Cape Town? Like, oh, you have to come, man. And so there's still that sense of like, you know, patriotism. Yeah. I love my city. I love the country. I love Josie as well. Like we're there often, you know. But then also you go overseas and it just, like every type of mindset that you ever had, you're like, oh, I didn't know that was possible. Oh, that's so crazy. And you come back and you kind of reinterpret those ideas at a local level. It's like, yeah, super dope.
You have all these ideas. You've traveled that much of the world. You've seen different parts. How have you contained yourself? How have you created a sense of creative restraint? It's like you guys are doing an ad campaign. You know how to play drums, man. You can wear that hat now. How do you practice that? Because I've seen with a lot of people at certain brands, they'll overextend their role within the job. Yeah. It's like you can't be the influencer and the campaign manager.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, man, I think it's an interesting one. Like sometimes I'll kind of like sort of revert to the default. Like let's say, you know, sometimes I still like visit the set and whatnot during campaign shoots, and then like all of a sudden my creative director hat just goes on, you know, or I can see the lighting's off, and I'm like, yo, you know, change that setting. It's the wrong temperature, like Kelvin or whatever, and then I'll just revert into that like quickly. But I'll dip in, but I'll dip back out because I don't like also want to feel like I'm overstepping, because otherwise my team feels, you know, like they're not competent or whatever. But sometimes if I need to like just grab hold of something, then I will. There's only been like I think maybe once or twice where I've actually like picked up a camera and done a shoot for like, you know, I mean, marketing director shouldn't be doing that for sure. But we needed something really quickly. We didn't have like a huge budget. I'm like, guys, I'll just shoot it, you know, let's just get it done. And so it is nice to be able to kind of like have those skills in your backpack that you can just like whip out every now and then. Or if, you know, one of my team is dealing with something with an agency, then, you know, I'd get a little bit more involved and give them like really specific direction on what I want to see in a treatment. And I think sort of, even though like a marketing director, I'm more of a creative director. And so it really has helped me dabbling in all of these different mediums over the years to be able to lead better. So I've got like a creative department in my team that deals with all the design and everything else, and I know that they really appreciate me being able to speak their language. You know, it's like, oh no, guys, there's a better way to do this. This is more efficient. Let me show you the shortcut. You know, or if I'm talking about the saturation needs to come down or whatever, as opposed to make it pop.
I don't like the color.
Yeah. Something's off. You know, I can give them like specific, you know, input, and I hope they appreciate that. I think they do. But yeah, I try not to overstep too much, because again, to our earlier conversation, your impact gets limited if you need to have your hands on everything. If you can kind of step back a little bit and allow people to grow into where you need them to grow to, you can achieve a hell of a lot more. Yeah.
We spoke about the internal. How do you then deal with it when you're working with these global brands? And you're the biggest buyer, you're the biggest client.
Yeah.
You're trying to amplify the ideas, and sometimes it doesn't go over the line. Yeah. Sometimes the 2 million budget gets cut. Yeah. How have you dealt with that to say, hey, as much as we're in a position of power on our side, how can we tell your story better?
Yeah. I think it comes down to relationship, man, and the foundation of every relationship is trust. And so if there's a lack of trust in a situation, it's not going to go your way. And so I feel that in terms of like getting things over the line in industry, and whatever industry, you know, ours, another industry, whatever, it comes down to whether you trust the person or not. And then the more corporate answer is like whether everybody in the team is convinced that it's going to achieve the company goals. And sometimes I need to wear both of those hats. And so sometimes I need to put a block on something even my team is trying to get over the line, because I'm thinking about, you know, the ROI, or I'm thinking about how this thing comes together, or doesn't make sense from an investment point of view. It's like, if we spend X, this is going to be a great brand awareness thing, but is there enough of a tie back to product, or how do we close the loop on that complete user journey? Because if it doesn't, then it might just be sort of like too much of a spend or too much of an investment. In terms of working with global brands, it's ups and downs, man. Like I think if they mess with the idea, they generally will find the money for it. But I think it's, if you put enough time and effort into proving value back to them, they are a lot more receptive to back you. It's like, often there's like all these awesome things. Oh, we're going to do this and this and this and this. And then there's like zero ROI. I'm like, okay, so cool. You want, you know, money to support this thing and, but from your deck, I'm only seeing how you benefit. I'm not seeing how, you know, the brand benefits.
Let me cut you in, actually. You're the big guy. We pitch to someone else. They pitch to you. You sign off or not. Then you report to someone else. How does someone get an idea above the line, above the Rash?
Yeah. So I think it comes down to what I just said, right? So number one,
to build the perfect deck.
The perfect deck. So you could build a perfect deck. Could be the best idea. You could prove ROI and all the rest of it, like I just mentioned now, and you could still potentially not get over the line, because if it wasn't in the annual projected spend for that year, then we just don't have the money to invest in it. We might love the idea, but it just might have fallen in a difficult time, or maybe the economy isn't like trading like it should be. There's a lot of different things that affect that, man. So I think this is a really important question, because not getting something over the line can affect someone in quite a deep way. That might have been their last hope to pay their rent at the end of the month. They just need someone to like buy into this or support them, or, you know, throw them a bone or whatever. And sometimes we just really can't, man. Like it's not that we like don't have the money, it's that like we've got a plan of like what we need to do, and sometimes we can adjust the plan, but sometimes we can't, and sometimes it's too much of a pivot from the existing plan to kind of, okay, we were going on this trajectory, but now there's this other thing and it's a cool idea, but we just can't do it at this stage. Do you know what I mean? So it's important not to kind of let that rejection get to you, like internally, like to your confidence and everything else. That's also just the nature of being a creative, even being running an agency. You're going to pitch all the time. If it doesn't get over, like move as quickly as you can to the next one, or take the feedback from the brands and say, okay, cool, I get you. Are you open to letting us adjust the plan and come to you again? And if they are, then cool, adjust your plan, come back, see if you can get it over the line. But it's not as simple as it seems, if that makes sense.
How does one then circle back the idea? Like, hey, didn't work out this year. Yeah. How do I represent it to you next year? Because it's like the human lines are always open.
Yeah.
It's the business side that didn't make sense. Yeah.
So there's two ways, right? As annoying as it is sometimes, it's like just repeated email after email, DM after DM, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, bro. Like sometimes I have to be like very direct and be like, bro, just like chill, you know? But often I do actually respect it. I'm like, no, this guy's he's doing the work, like to really get like top of mind and whatnot. And sometimes it takes that type of persistence to get your idea across. And then, but if a brand has given you the boundary line, be like, yo, I love the idea, but this is something that we can pick up probably next year around whatever, between Jan and March, then put a reminder in your thing, man. Like come October, November, like, yo, you said we could maybe look at this Jan and March. Are you still open? And then I'll be like, oh, I'd forgotten about that. But yeah, cool. Let's hook up. Let's chop it up. Maybe it's something we can get going.
How did you deal with these things when you were agency?
Outworking our competitors. So I'll tell you exactly how we got the account firstly. Because that's kind of how I ended up coming across, because we were working on that account for about 6 years, and somebody threw us a bone in terms of like, we need someone to come and shoot some BTS footage. We like,
this is for TFG, just for context sake, yeah.
Yeah. So for, I think it was for like a red bat shoot or something. And at that stage, we were like small, man. We were like small fry agency doing many corporate work and conventions and event, content and whatnot. And I remember sitting down with my team and being like, guys, there's going to be another agency on set shooting the campaign. We doing BTS. I want the BTS to be better than the campaign. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. So we went in, we shot the living heck out of that thing. Every angle you could think of, even when, the cameras weren't rolling and, they were just there. We were just shooting everything, bro. Plates, like landscape shots, everything. And then when we got into the edit, we went crazy, like VFX, like this, that, the rest. And then the campaign video came out and was super mid, bro. And then we said like, hey guys, if you feel that this is strong enough, like you're more than welcome to use it for your campaign. And they watched it and they were like, what the hell? And then that ended up being the main campaign story. And then all of a sudden, we got a ring back. So, yo, can you guys maybe come on board to shoot the next one? Hey, can you come on board to shoot the next one? And that's how you do it. Like, you don't cut corners. I think that particular job even like cost us money. So we ran a loss on that because we wanted the best gear. We wanted the best of everything. We, got a VFX guy in and all of this. But ultimately, like the reward for that was like, still to this day, like I still use that agency even though I'm not running it anymore, because the values and the mentality that we installed in that small, company is still there, and that's what happens, man. If you really want to like get the work in, don't be like, yo, it's 5 o'clock. We've charged up until 5. It's going to cost you extra. And some people might not like, that statement. They'd be like, no, people need to pay and whatnot. I think you always need to treat things with the long-term view in mind. And yeah, sure, maybe there was bad planning and maybe now your guys are having to stay a bit later or whatever. You as someone who's in charge of that team or that agency or that, production unit, you need to be like mature enough to understand the complexity of that scenario. It's like either you're going to be like, look, these guys have like messed you around from the inception of this job, and you're going to be like, yo, 1 minute after 5, you're on the clock. And that's only if you plan on not working with those people again because it just hasn't been a great experience. But if you value the relationship, you can see that, this was kind of out of their hands. Maybe it started raining that day or whatever. You're like, yo, chill, we got this. We'll stay till the shoot is done. Man, I can't tell you how valuable that is. And those are the guys you want to keep around. You're like, they're with us, thick, thin, all the rest of it. Yeah.
What's your word to the youth?
The word to the youth is get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because it's only when you step out into the unknown, take risks, that you are able to open yourself to new opportunities. If you keep playing it safe, it's going to take you probably like 10 times longer to get to where you need to get to.
Damn. Cnr Juta De Beer, a very special edition out of Cape Town. Thank you so much, Rash.
Thank you. Thank you.